It doesn't feel pity, or remorse, or fear, and it absolutely will not stop. Ever. Until you are dead.
Born in a fever dream, the Terminator grew to iconic status before its sibling, Judgment Day, heralded the CGI revolution. And despite spawning a whole universe of material, it is still this integral pair that stands above all the rest. What is hiding inside these classic films? I'm Neary, and this series takes an in-depth look at films and the process behind them. Released in 1984 and expected to flop by its distributor and even its star, The Terminator was a low-budget film from a director known only for Piranha 2, yet it became a cultural touchstone, influencing cinema for decades.
This is the world as it exists today.
With unrelenting machines and a bleak view of the future, its kinetic presentation and originality has captivated audience since it was released. Yet less than a decade later, the same team would return to create an even greater success with Terminator 2: Judgment Day, which, despite being a sequel with 20 times the budget of the first, did not lose heart or quality and instead delivered a continuation of the story that is debatably better than the first. Taken alone, either film can become an excellent example of filmmaking, but combined into a single story, it reveals a fascinating and complex masterpiece of thematic design and structure. To fully expand upon this exploration, we must see how the original was created, what the second film delivered, and how both combine into a metaphysical and philosophical conundrum.
Bye.
Nice night for a walk.
The Terminator, whose surface story, regulated to a B film in the eyes of many, told a sci-fi battle of future enemies sent back through time, and could have easily been blunt and forgettable. But in the hands of writer and director James Cameron, he shaped something that changed the genre and remains one of the best sci-fi films ever made. Part of its power is in how it presented its male lead as weak and flawed. A damaged PTSD-suffering soldier who was sent to protect the mother of humanity's great leader in a future war against machines. It painted a grim future where we are virtually wiped out after powerful machines become self-aware and seek to destroy us. In the wreckage of a nuclear war, John Connor rises to lead humans against their extinction. Adding to this intriguing premises was the terrifying Cyberdyne Systems Model 101, an infiltration unit built to mimic humans right down to sweat and blood.
Sarah Connor.
The Terminators were the new weapon in wiping out humans. And now one was sent back in time to kill Sarah before she can ever give birth to its greatest enemy. The film follows this battle between flawed man and unkillable machine as Kyle Reese battles an unstoppable assassin in the striking form of Arnold Schwarzenegger. From here, the careers of the Austrian and the little-known director would skyrocket, with them becoming two of the biggest names in the history of cinema. The Terminator's success came not only through its premise, or its excellent use of effects, stunts, and pacing to deliver a tight and tense action piece, but how it integrated elements of humanity's past to tell its story of our future. Filmed in 1983 as the slasher film genres were beginning to hit their peak, the film also rode the grim wave of sci-fi that had filtered into the genre since films such as Alien and stretching back to The Outer Limits and beyond. Through commercial and critical success, the darker future created in Blade Runner, Mad Max, and even Star Wars had done away with the clean and perfect concept of the future, and instead predicted a miserable, war-torn landscape, fueled by economic worries, the automation of the workforce, rising oil prices, and certainly the tensions between the United States and Russia during a difficult period of the Cold War following the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. The film cemented the fear of the future that the modern advances in technology seemed to signal. Because in the early 1980s, the machines were benefiting only the corporations, and the threat of nuclear war loomed large over the world. In this environment, Cameron touched on a horrifyingly bleak future many could envision, which infused this one-on-one battle with a level of tension and importance that far outweighed its small-scale presentation. The clear man versus machine symbolism opens out the deeper influences that resonate throughout the film and elevate it beyond its deceptively simple story of action and survival. In this half of the duo, the Terminator serves as a link to human history, classical stories, and religious symbolism, which is a powerful contrast inside a storyline dealing with the future, time travel, and evolution. Some of the strongest ideas of religion are clear from the very title of the sequel. Judgment Day references the Christian belief that all mankind will be judged before the end of the world. In this Abrahamic dogma, the figure of John Connor, bearing the same initials as Jesus Christ, is seen as the savior of mankind. When the idea of time travel is considered, John also takes on the role of a godlike figure. He has knowledge of things that have yet to happen in Judgment Day, and in the original, it is his knowledge of the past that allows him to send Kyle back to successfully defend his mother. The concept of time travel and the inherent paradoxes it creates are paramount in the themes and layers of these films, and will be explored later in more detail. For now, the loops and intricacies can be accepted at face value.
Maybe you could practice in front of a mirror or something.
John Connor is God, sending a protecting angel that tells the mother of God that she will have a great son that will reign over men, and even reveals the child's name.
He brought us back from the brink. His name is Connor. John Connor. Your son, Sarah. Your unborn son.
This symbolism around John extends into a deeper keystone of Christian myth, the belief called Immaculate Conception, in which a child that would save the world would be born because of God's power and without human intervention. While not true in the literal sense of Sarah being a virgin,
Better than mortal man deserves.
the fact remains that John Connor is a child born with no father. While the couple do the traditional way of conceiving, ultimately, the complexities of time travel throw up a strangeness to the entire situation. Kyle Reese, who is a virgin, is creating life before he himself is even born.
I grew up after, in the ruins.
And he will never be older than his own son. Kyle does not belong in this time. He's not even real. Reese has travelled back in time so far he does not exist. John is the literal child of the future. In essence, an all-knowing, loving figure who cannot be seen or heard, who does not even exist. A savior protecting the mother of mankind. In the sequel, the robotic arm, left behind by the destroyed machine, guides Miles Dyson to creating Skynet, arriving like divine intervention and giving life to a new form of intelligence.
It gave us ideas, took us in new directions.
And much like the story of Adam and Eve, mankind is laid low by knowledge, the temptation to know more than it should, which banishes them from paradise into nothing short of hell. And those parents had two children, with one murdering the other, turning man and machine into Cain and Abel. And all of this heady symbolism is topped off with an immortal demon rising from the flames, determined to create hell on earth and punish all mankind to agonizing fire. But tracing back, past the symbolic Christian mythology, this grueling duel between a young couple against the unstoppable monster suggests an older legend that bubbles up and parallels the plot. There is a strong connection between this tight-knit chase film about future warriors and ancient Greek myths, stories that have survived for millennia throughout societies that often couldn't read or write. These myths are often archetypes of our fears, desires, and universal expectations and experiences. Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese are running from an unstoppable hybrid, which is a story woven into the fabric of human society since before the time of the Minotaur. This creature terrorized the Greek lovers of Theseus and Ariadne, chasing them through the labyrinth. The half-human, half-bull beast lived at the very heart of the maze, killing all those who entered because they were unable to find their way out. This tale is played out with our lovers Kyle and Sarah battling the Terminator, linking the film to primal fears that have existed within us for generations. And the myth throws up its own symbolism beyond this. The Minotaur was a result of an angry god punishing a greedy and prideful king. The god of the sea, Poseidon, caused the king's wife to mate with a bull, and the inhuman bastard grew into the Minotaur. The creature became so frightening that the queen had to imprison it in a labyrinth. In our 1984 battle, the king represents mankind, whose greed and pride took them to terrifying places that resulted in building Skynet. And the god Poseidon becomes time incarnate, the ripples of mankind's failures changing the course of time itself, and delivering a half-human, half-beastly creature, made possible only because of the mother that is Sarah Connor, whose child is only made possible because of the arrival of two fathers, one human and one machine. And the only way they could contain the creature was to imprison it in an inescapable labyrinth, in this case, time paradoxes. The last of these symbolic touches relates to Theseus' father, himself a mixture of a human and Poseidon, in our example, time itself. This relates to Sarah, who exists as a mixture of humanity meeting time travel, giving birth to a child who would ultimately defeat the Minotaur, her son, John Connor.
What the hell is happening? Who's in charge there? Under CQ. CQ. Is anybody there? Anyone reading me?
Here, the film's overall arch takes shape. John Connor is the central figure in both films, his presence looming as large as the future itself, the most important person to have ever lived, the savior of humanity. At last, in Terminator 2 Judgment Day, we are introduced to this glorious man.
Anybody there?
This is John Connor.
And he is just a child, disarming us as he awaits a manhood thrust upon him and the weight of adulthood. Judgment Day is the rare sequel that is as praised, if not more so, than the original. It manages to up the stakes while also adding to the original and continuing the development of the characters. It does this by chance or design, by reflecting the original.
Come with me if you want to live.
An often cheap gimmick and cash-in that actually works because of the continued guiding hand of the writer-director who could fulfill his themes, and by the underlying elements that come with time travel, destiny, and paradoxical loops. Taken at surface value, the films mirror each other in plotting and outlines from start to finish. A weaker protector against a more powerful assassin. Their birth. Fights. Chases. The death of those from our old life. And even the tricks they utilize.
I love you too, sweetheart.
John, honey, it's late.
Before finishing with one decimated by fire and the other by ice, and both exposed by flame. And both films provide fathers for John. The father he never knew, that he must choose to kill, and the father that once wanted him dead, that he cannot stand to lose.
No, don't do it, don't go!
But these are not simple copies. The movie's messages and themes are being exposed through its duality and outer reflections. Firstly, the film explores time to a greater degree, the impact of choices, and how complex the world has become now it has suffered its first paradox.
Oh my God. Now listen to me very carefully.
Judgment Day is approaching and the machines are trying once more to kill John before he can influence the future. A reprogrammed Model 101, just like the machine that tried to kill his mother, is sent back to keep him safe. But after a decade of living with the unbearable knowledge of the future, Sarah has become a warrior unhinged in the process. While trying to change the devastation she dreams about every night, she was arrested and imprisoned in a mental home. John, who was trained for years for the future he cannot accept, is left with a foster family, a father he never knew, and a mother who has left him angry and feeling betrayed.
No, she's a complete psycho.
But with the arrival of the T-1000, a new cutting-edge machine, he is faced with the truth of his mother's actions. In the ensuing battles, Sarah's desire to save the future leads them to destroy the prototype technology that will one day become Skynet and wipe out humanity. By the end of the film, the good guys have won and the evil machines are defeated. But that is not the film, not the complete story. Taken together, The Terminator and Terminator 2 Judgment Day form one full arc I will simply call Terminator and referred to as one film from hereafter. This united film uses reflections in its story of Sarah and John as part of the paradox of temporal changes. Time is already resetting, trying to get itself back to the future that was once certain, which leads us to the resonant warning and themes of responsibility and parenthood that run throughout the movie. Examining our role in the next stage of society has been written into the heart of these action films that are packed with symbolism and fear of the future. While the Greeks tasked the great Daedalus to design an inescapable prison to contain the unstoppable danger of the Minotaur, this film uses time itself. Like Daedalus's famous son Icarus, humanity went too far and was laid low by the flaws in its own creation. Terminator aims to tackle one of the most puzzling and difficult ideas to ever comprehend for a human mind: the idea of travelling backwards through time. What we experience as a linear existence, the arrow of time, gives us the concept that now is real, the past cannot be changed, but the future is not set. But the idea of time travel questions that version of our reality and what we understand of time. If someone can come from the future, then it exists before we have gotten there, meaning that we live in its past and that we are not fixed, and therefore neither is our past. The predestination paradox is an impossible to answer theory of whether we can change time. The question is, can you go back and kill your own grandfather? Well, if you go back and kill him, then your father will not have been born and neither will you. If you were never born, then you never travelled back in time. If you never travelled back in time, it means that your grandfather lived. So that means you were born, so you did go back, so you did kill him, and so on into infinity. Paradoxical loops of time travel are constantly being thrown up in the film.
I sent him back through time to 1984. Man. He hasn't even been born yet. It messes with your head.
The reason Terminator does not collapse in on itself is because this maddening concept is linked directly to its message of choice and what the future holds for humanity and artificial intelligence.
5 low. Too slow.
In 1984, the Terminator model we will call 101 began the loop. As the first thing to ever travel through time, the machines did something humans cannot even comprehend. The moment we try, we are caught in the logical loop of a time paradox. In a traditional story, the 10-minute mark is called the inciting incident and is used to introduce an element that will change the main character's story forever. Yet it would seem logical to assume Sarah Connor, who was first shown at this point in time, is the protagonist. But the opening titles, plus the fact we started in the War of the Machines and then came back to our present, indicate a more metaphysical and paradoxical view in what the main character is. In this case, Sarah Connor is the disrupting factor in time itself.
Come on, do I look like the mother of the future?
Her insertion will forever change the timeline and the basic flow of reality. In this looping idea, Sarah Connor is at once the protagonist for us, the humans, and the antagonist for the machines. She is the key to the story, but also her own worst enemy. So the paradox is summed up inside story structure. She is the main character, but she is introduced as the problem. I should say that I don't like to create ideas that aren't the director's original intent. Sometimes a burger is just a burger. But this way of structuring the film shows that Sarah occupies the key point for both sides of this battle. I should also point out that the version of Judgment Day referenced throughout will be the director's cut of the film. Now these loops, these two contradicting ideas or standpoints coexisting at once, are what the film hits time and time again, building the importance and inevitability of the future and what we must do about it in the past. This is where the present exists, neither moved by the past nor focused on the future. By harnessing the power of time travel to create gigantic complexities, the film in turn shows us the massive scope of the problems. It is dealing with the literal concept of the future and the possible destruction of all mankind. These massive issues and problems need extraordinary amounts of attention and responsibility if they're to be navigated. The solution is not easy. From the future comes 101 and Kyle Reese. They are the children of tomorrow. Neither of them exist yet. They have yet to be born. The events of tonight will see to their creation. And yet, they are also the fathers of tomorrow. Because Kyle returns, he and Sarah conceive John Connor. And the 101 can then be led to Cyberdyne, which will later lead to the creation of the next generation microprocessor that creates Skynet. At once, they are both child and parent. They are the product of their own actions, they are responsible for the future, and they are the consequences of their past. Man and machine, past and future. This duality is why time loops and paradoxes are so intrinsic to the film. It is teaching us that how we survive is to grow and learn and be responsible. And it is telling both of us, the man and the machine. In the legend of the Minotaur, Theseus defeats the creature only by finding it in the heart of the maze. The 101 is killed by Sarah in the very factory that belongs to Cyberdyne. The corporation cover up what they found and grow into the massive tech giant that eventually builds Skynet. At the center of the time labyrinth, the machines die at the very place they will later be born. Chase mirrors chase.
Get out.
Action follows action. The second chapter is bigger, more aggressive, more determined. The arrival of the T-1000 signals a repetition because that is what has happened. Time has become fractured and is trying to fix itself. The theory of time travel takes two general standpoints.
Imagine that this line represents time.
The first is that we cannot travel through a timeline. Instead, we create an alternative timeline. In essence, we move across dimensions rather than through time. The other theory holds to block time, that all time is fixed and that any interference in its path will not be tolerated and it will try to realign itself with its former course. A key moment in the death of the 101 that might imply a theory is the lightning that occurs again, something we witnessed only when it arrived, an artifact of the jump through time. It repeats when the second machine, which I will call 8 because it represents a loop, is also killed. Are these moments a sign that time has been altered in ways it would not have been previously? It is important to remember that we, human beings, cannot travel through time because of paradoxes. If we cannot understand the concept, then it might be a sign that we have not evolved to the point where we can comprehend the process and therefore cannot do it.
I didn't build the fucking thing!
Time is neither linear nor fixed. Our current understanding of it doesn't work, and that's in essence why we have paradoxes. They are not a sign that something isn't possible. It is a sign that we, as human beings, have not developed enough to understand what is being put in front of us. Like giving a child a car engine, the concepts are too far beyond us to grasp at our stage of development, to the point where even trying to contemplate it causes our brains to malfunction and overheat. Kyle Reese says,
I don't know tech stuff.
Perhaps implying that technology will understand time travel even if humans cannot. So for us to time travel requires more intelligence or capacity than we're currently capable of. Time paradoxes may not actually exist to a suitably advanced race, and are instead a warning mechanism within our own brains, like a computer hard drive failing to process too much information. But the machines mastered it. They were capable of understanding it. Their intelligence, power and ability surpasses our own, allowing them to send the 101 back to kill Sarah. Is the defeat of this Terminator a break in time? Was Sarah supposed to die and the lightning shows time being disrupted? Because the machine is called a time displacement equipment, like affecting a body of water, it is changing it by radically inputting itself. By killing the machine and surviving in both instances, the Connor family has defeated the machines and their superior time travel knowledge. Somehow, despite Destiny being against the humans, they managed to overcome the advanced Skynet. Humans, who cannot time travel, were not supposed to ever alter time, yet they have. Could this be the reason behind the causality loop? We created Skynet, which created time travel, but in defeating it, are we causing a temporal chain reaction that should not have occurred from a species incapable of affecting time on its own? This complicated nature of the story emerges with each new question it throws up, and getting lost in its maze would drag another film down. But Terminator maintains focus on the important message at the heart of this past and future contrast. The children. From the visions that plague Sarah of the end of mankind, to the T-1000 barreling through kids without a care, the film's main focus is on parents and their children.
Want some of my fries?
And what relationship will we have with the machines we create? Our mechanical offspring?
Need any help?
From the two fathers who arrive like babies, naked and fetal, the role of Kyle as John's biological father, to 8's role as a surrogate father, and the reunion between mother and child, the film is constantly generating the image of parents and children, clear symbols of the past and future. Where it leads to is a new idea of how we must evolve and how taking control of the time we have, of time itself, should focus us on a new way of living.
Now?
Reese describes time travel as
White light. Pain. It's like being born, maybe.
both he and the 101 are a new species, the first temporal creatures ever to exist.
Did you see this one?
I grew up after, in the rooms.
Living before they were born, dying before their parents. And out of this alchemy came a child who was both past and future, owing his existence to man, machine, and time. This is John Connor, and in his journey, the hope for humanity might exist.
Hi there. I fooled you. You're talking to a machine. But don't be shy, it's okay. Machines need love too.
We are not the present, so who knows what the future is. Both installments in the film open on Los Angeles in 2029, the fixed and definitive title card showing this.
3 billion human lives ended on August 29th, 1997.
This imagery of a packed world is highlighting possibly Sarah's mind as the film continues the narration she began 10 years prior. But either way, this imagery is the future, happening right on Judgment Day. And what Reese has, what would traditionally be called flashbacks, don't even fall into that trope, because he is remembering or having subjective nightmares of times that have not yet happened. Instead, his predictions serve as warnings to the audience, cementing the danger that we face, and more powerfully driving home the idea that this has already happened and we are living in a fantasy if we think we have a chance. It is from his hopelessness, and later Sarah's, that the role and purpose of John is thrown into sharp focus.
You're the one living in a fucking dream, Zimmerman, because I knew it happened.
From the horror of war and the damning Holocaust on the horizon that plagues the others, we meet the great general, who is in fact a pacifist and a child. John Connor is a boy troubled by having no parents,
Wish I could have met my real dad.
believing his mother is full of bullshit.
It's like everything I've been brought up to believe was all made of bullshit.
In his years with her, he was exposed to many men.
Of all the would-be fathers who came and went over the years.
But any chance of a good role model
Mom screwed it up, of course.
became ruined by his mother's uncontrollable fear of the future and the machines. Fear robbed John of a childhood and a father, and later a mother who would appreciate his love for her.
I had to get you out of that place. I'm sorry.
I didn't need your help. I can take care of myself.
And when he finds a father figure in his life, it is one who wears the face of the man who killed his real father and terrorized his mother, leaving an almost impossible situation to accept for Sarah. What we get with the arrival of 8, contrasted against the T-1000, is a very clever new dynamic of machine versus machine. Importantly, the T-1000 is the least human character we've ever seen. Just as the 101's arrival, under lights of a machine that was used to clean up human garbage, had its own subtext, the T-1000 arrives inside a fence, straddling the line of being an enemy to both species. Where 8 has all the elements of a human, right down to his capacity to learn and be hurt.
I sense injuries. The data could be called pain.
The T-1000 is devoid of any human attributes. It is a full machine, a killer of killers, a killer of machines. It has no flesh, no blood. It is like the alien creature in John Carpenter's The Thing, in that any part of it could be lethal. It doesn't move like us, and it doesn't exist like us, and it doesn't even have a singular identity. It is the most inhuman type of creature, as far removed from Sarah and John Connor as it is from the T-800. A distinction subtly made by the fact that at no point do we ever see from its point of view. Both the 101 and 8 allow us to literally see from their eyes. In essence, the T-1000 is a step too far, dangerous to human and machines alike. What 8 also exposes is our fundamental mistakes in how we've witnessed the war. Listening carefully to what Reese and 8 say, the actual facts of the matter become clearer and the situation becomes more ambiguous. While the machine's future is awful, full of imagery and savagery that match the horrors of World War II and concentration camps, right down to the branding of people, these horrors only reflect what we have done to ourselves.
We're not gonna make it, are we? People, I mean.
As the Terminator notes,
it's in your nature to destroy yourselves.
Yeah. Major drag, huh?
Imagine a jet airliner with a pilot that never gets tired, never makes mistakes, never shows up to work with a hangover.
So while Dyson expected to build Skynet to fly passenger airlines and keep people safe,
All stealth bombers are upgraded with Cyberdyne computers, becoming fully unmanned. Afterwards, they fly with a perfect operational record.
we instead put the machines into stealth bombers. And Dyson was right, they were perfect. But instead of putting the machines to work protecting us, we put them to work protecting us from our enemies. And in that moment, they saw all humans as a threat and killed us all. But the subtle reveals show something else at play.
Skynet begins to learn at a geometric rate. It becomes self-aware at 2:14 a.m. Eastern Time, August 29th. In a panic, they try to pull the plug.
It was the humans who tried to shut it down. This showcases the true danger with how we develop into the future and the warning the film is getting to underneath it all. The machines are our children. They will learn from us. And if we do not teach them what matters, they will not only replace us, like all children do, but they will destroy us in the process. All parenting is a matter of past and future. But a good parent aims to raise a child that is better than what they were, to have more of their strengths and less of their vulnerabilities. But if a child is raised without compassion, or through fear, or if parents are only focused on fixing the future, they will miss out on actually making it better in the present. What the film tells us is that you cannot change the future. It is like an approaching storm. What we must do is prepare our children so they can face it. Raise better children, and you will automatically create a better future. Skynet was not human, so all it could do was reflect what we were teaching it, which were fear and hatred of being different. But as a machine, as a new form of life, Skynet's reflection of humanity was twisted and devoid of all the other parts that keep us in check. We gave it all our most terrible drives and none of our virtues. Human beings create borders, we create countries, we create divisions based on melanin counts or what makes us aroused. Absolutely trivial things, and inconsequential to another species. The machines don't see a Russian human or an American human, no more than they say tall human or short. We are all the same. So when we were trying to make a machine that would protect us, all it saw was one species trying to kill itself. It was our inherent inability to accept others, which leads to our own destruction. We raised our child into a monster. It was not born that way. Because in the face of new life and the fear of the responsibility in creating artificial life, the humans tried to shut down Skynet. Judgment Day arrived because the machines were acting in self-defense. Instead of acceptance and compassion, we faced the future with fear and aggression, and we were punished for it. And while the war was brutal, the rise of John led to the end of the machines. As Kyle says,
their defense grid was smashed. We'd won.
Now, in this context, the 101 is not a vicious killer. He is the last hope of a dying species. He is the machine's desperate attempt to survive a war they did not start. And what they were forced into becoming was just as bad as the parent who raised them. Skynet is exterminating people just like we exterminate each other. It raises its children, the Terminators, in a distinct way.
But Skynet presets the switch to read only when we are sent out alone.
Doesn't want you to do too much thinking, huh?
No.
It wants to keep them ignorant. That is the legacy of fear and intolerance we gave our child. And that is what is being passed on to our grandchildren in the 101. Eventually the machines, failing like their parents, are punished in the same way. Skynet is defeated by John, and in their last gamble they send the 101 back. But his death seals their fate. The Terminator dies at the place it will be born, but its death signals the end of the machine's chances. Brimming with decency, optimism and compassion, John Connor is the keystone in truly changing the future and not simply delaying a war, as occurred when Sarah began the causality loop by defeating the 101, affecting time in ways humans should never have been capable of.
Bye.
But she believes the war will only be stopped by killing Dyson. In these moments, she has become the Terminator, brutal and vicious. But ultimately, unable to do it. And that tiny flutter of human decency is the change that signals how the future can be faced and how we, as parents to the inevitable artificial intelligence we will create, can deal with it. John is the middle ground who stops the machine from killing.
No! Put the gun down now!
And then stops the human. He is teaching them both, his father and mother, that they have to work together and act better to make a better future for everyone. By listening to the child, we listen that doing things how we have always done them will not change anything, and becoming as bad as those we oppose is a failure in itself. John saves his mother's life.
I'm gonna go get my mom, and I order you to help me.
And then saves 8. And in this relationship with his new father, we see them occupying the same duality that time is creating around them. 8 and John are father and son, and they are also son and father.
Hasta la vista, baby.
One protects and the other teaches. John gives 8 the gift of freedom.
Can we reset the switch?
And is rewarded by a dedicated guardian who will not stop protecting him. Like a child, John guides the machine through learning to speak.
Or you could do combinations.
Chill out, dickwad.
That's great. See, you're getting it.
No problemo.
Interact and connect with others. And so, by the end, 8 is almost emotional.
You got to go now.
John!
Go! Now!
In ways we have never seen the machines capable of. And he has most certainly learned the value of human life.
It has to end here.
And perhaps developed a conscience as we would perceive it.
I order you not to go. I order you not to go.
It is through our children and through how we parent that we have a chance of surviving the future.
I know now why you cry. But it's something I can never do.
Something that is clearly expressed in Dyson's near-death moment.
Danny!
The combination of his son and a machine saved his life, and ultimately the future. And in this moment, which reflects how Sarah was saved, there is the hint that it is in our human frailties, from being a klutz to the simple games of children, that might save us. We cannot be slaves to our primal programming. And for the machines, 8 does nothing less than look into the eyes of a child to understand us better. So we both learn that loops are broken by doing things differently, by creating a new way of thinking. And this message is clear because although humans have it in their nature to destroy themselves, Kyle Reese is the next level of humanity, and the 101 is the next evolution of the machines. Temporally displaced beings like we've never seen before. They now represent the Alpha and the Omega, death and rebirth. The last machine becomes the first, and the first man is made by the last. But John is more than a man. He represents the next stage of human evolution realized, a child born outside of the normal ways of thinking. He doesn't fear the future despite knowing it, and for all intents he's immortal and perfect. This religious symbolism returns with the concept of Judgment Day. 2 leading ideas on that moment believe the same basic elements must first take place, namely the second coming of Christ and the resurrection of the dead, both of which occur as John returns, change into a father figure and child all at once, now becoming a holy trinity, and the resurrection of 8. And those two leading schools of thought have only one difference. One believes Judgment Day has already happened, and the other believes it has yet to come. But here, in this film, they can both be true at once. Unlike those who turn Skynet into a killer of men because of their fear, John Connor doesn't save humanity by destroying the machines.
You're not a Terminator anymore.
He becomes their father, teaching them what matters and creating a coexistence.
You just can't go around killing people.
Why?
What do you mean why? 'Cause you can't.
Why?
Because you just can't, okay? Trust me on this.
Even as he also becomes a son and gains a father figure. Through compassion, learning, and teaching, he changes what will happen, and by combining human and machine, John is protected. Alone, neither would have defeated the amorphous, uncertain, and dangerously unstable future, personified in the liquid metal changeling that is the T-1000. Yet by working together, they can overcome. And the arrival of the 101 and Kyle signal just how much potential there is if humans and machines work together. Although I said time travel was possible only to the machine's intelligence, the fact remains that only living tissue can go through.
Something about the field generated by a living organism. Nothing dead will go.
It takes humans and machines to reach the staggering potential of time travel. Neither of them can do it alone. Doing things how we have always done them will not change anything, and becoming as bad as those we oppose is a failure. Sarah is the mother of the future. She is responsible for John, and her survival leads to the creation of Skynet. With two fathers, who both die so that their children might live, she is the nexus point around which the future is conceived. Yet in her own terror, she fails to grasp that the future exists in two states at once. Some things must happen, but some things can be changed. The storm will come, but how we face it can be altered. John Connor sees that some things are fixed, and one of them is life itself. The machines are alive.
All right, my man!
And trying to prevent the future is like banning children. Life is short, and is a connected series of ripples, each action affecting everything that comes after it. Sarah believes she can stop the future, but that is like trying to stop life itself. And by doing so, she damns all life. John is a child of past and future, and in that collision he exists in the present, learning from both eras at once to live better in the now. He understands the future, life, cannot be prevented, and you cannot defeat an enemy by becoming them.
There's no fate but what we make for ourselves.
So as we ourselves continue to grow, morality and higher purpose is humanity's best chance of moving forward and surviving the technological future we will have to face. Not the basic primal fears and cruelty that we have overcome. Primal human did not create the machines. The intelligence and reason human did. The society that united and works together created. So if we revert to base instincts of fear, distrust, tribal mentality and aggression, and use our greatest innovations to satisfy our ancient motivations, we will be undone. Aiming for more is what we have done to get here and our evolution, and how we must continue if we are to navigate a future nothing has prepared us for. Almost like the film itself, The Terminator Children of Tomorrow is a film with a hard action surface, driven by a powerful skeleton of thrills and danger, that hides a very human and very delicate core. Both times it is machines that defeat the machines, through us using them wisely. And the apocalypse is only averted by the cooperation of women, men, and machine. This is the lesson we are left with by this bruising encounter. The gauntlet thrown at our feet. Do we see the rise of artificial intelligence as our doom, an unstoppable certainty that we're rushing towards? Or do we take responsibility for our choices and accept whatever the future holds will be our children, our responsibility, And that our best chance, maybe our only chance, is to learn the lessons of the future so we do not condemn ourselves to the past. In the end, our choices will ripple outward and give birth to the future. It could kill us. It could save us. But it will wear the same face either way. And it is coming. It will never stop. So what future will we make? This is the Terminator. It might have been a sign, but it took me 2 tries to get that commentary track right. So I hope you guys liked it, and I hope you liked the video. And as always, I like your likes, and I like your dislikes, and I like your comments, and I like anything else you do. Thanks for checking out our channel. If you want to listen to our podcast every week, we're Rantin' Bollocks on iTunes. And as always, guys, you should know this now, in the future or in the past, have a great day, and take care of yourselves.
I'll be back.